All right, class. Let's make this tutorial for some Maya Olympics, modeling basics. So I'm just going to do some overview here. Maya, this is Autodesk Maya, like a lot of programs. We got our menu up here. We're not going to be living up here too much. I'm going to be going through a lot of shortcuts and things like that. First things first, we want to just kind of learn navigating Maya, right? So make sure whenever you're using Maya, you have a middle mouse button. That's that little wheel in the middle of your mouse. Obviously, when you move that, that's zooming in and out. We're going to hold the Option key on our keyboard, and we're going to try every button on our mouse. Left mouse button, middle mouse, and the right. So while holding Option, I'm going to press the left mouse button and just kind of drag my mouse around. And as you can see, I can rotate my camera or pivot my camera around a particular viewpoint. So I'm gonna select an object here, do that same thing, select another object over here and do that same thing. So depending on what object I'm selecting on, it's gonna try to sort of kind of keep that in place. So just kind of be mindful of that when using that pivot. Next, we're going to do middle mouse button while holding Option on our keyboard. And would you look at that? That just gives us a pan, right? Next, we'll hold that same Option button down on our keyboard. Let's do that right mouse button. And moving left and right doesn't really give us anything, but when we move our mouses up and down, it looks like we can also zoom in and out, right? You know me, I'm not going to do anything like that. I never use that. You'll never see me really use that. I'm just going to use my mouse wheel or one of our first shortcuts, F on our keyboard while selecting on an object. If not selected on an object, we can always deselect, hit F again, and now it'll try to frame every object that's been created all within your viewport. What is a viewport? Your viewport is this working area that you see here. You'll hear me call this gray space in the background, which you can change the color of this gray space. I'll show that later, maybe on a separate video. But you will hear me call this the void. That's just a term I call it. I don't know if it's official, but it's just something I call it. All right. I'm going to hold Option, middle mouse, just drag, and I'm going to select that first object over here. Just hit F and just frame that up. Before I continue, just want to also explain other viewports. I'm going to hit F on my keyboard. Right now we're in the perspective view, right? We're in the perspective view right now. And I'm going to hit space on my keyboard. And now it gives us our 4 panel, which you can also see right here, a button if you want to explicitly click it in a different kind of way. You can also click right over here to get that 4-panel view. This 4-panel view is pretty typical in most 3D modeling programs. We got our top view. I'm going to hit F on my keyboard while my mouse is hovering over the top view. Oop, click again. There we go. So now I can see that object, so I can be over here, move around. And if I need to make edits, I can still make those edits either in that perspective view or in this top view. Very, very handy. I'm going to hit F while in my front view. And we have our view cube pal right here. Very, very helpful. And now we can see that front view again. Whatever changes I make are obviously visible in every one of these views. Next, we have our side view here, and I'm just going to do a little trick here. Just hide all those objects. And in our side view, also on the right side here, you can see that same P cube we got. All right, just gonna bring all that stuff back. And let's begin. While my mouse is hovered over here, I'm gonna hit spacebar again to maximize that viewport. All right, so we have our extrude here, and just like in class, we have multiple ways we can extrude, right? So I'm going to go up here in our polygon panel, and there's multiple ways we can create a polygon. We can go up to create, polygon primitives. And we got a cool list here of cool primitives that you can use to manipulate, model, shape, add geo, start your 3D models. But you'll see me come here to the poly modeling menu to grab my P-cube. There's our handy dandy P-cube, and first thing you might see that gizmo pop up, one of these gizmos here. I'm using W, E, and R to switch between my translation tool, W, E for rotate tool, and R for scale. Again, W, E, and R. Those are going to be your friends and something you're going to be using quite often here in Maya. So I'm going to hit W on my keyboard and just kind of position that closer into place. And as I go down each one, I want to try to mimic that shape and just follow the rules that I kind of have laid out here. So we have extrude for the first one. I'm just going to right click and hold, and I get this cool contextual menu here where I can manipulate the vertex, the edge, the face, the object, or the UVs. But we're not gonna do the UVs, especially not in perspective mode. So just to show that real quick, I'm going to, again, while selected on my object, right click, hold, and bring my mouse and hover over the word face and then release. And now when my mouse hovers, I'm now able to select a face on a 3D model and translate those individual faces how I want. And I can rotate to the other side and move those over here, right? I could also hit E on my keyboard and rotate those individual faces while selected on it, right? And if I want to, I can hit R on my keyboard and scale those individual faces. From there, I can, while selected on my object, I can right click, hold one more time, and maybe not choose face this time. Let's go to vert, and let's do the exact same thing. I'm going to click on a vert, and I'm going to try to scale. Doesn't really do anything. I'm going to translate. Grab one of those handles again, and there it is. I can manipulate that in the Z, the X, and the Y axis. And next, I'm going to try to rotate. And again, that doesn't really do anything for us here in vert mode. While selected on my object, I'm going to right click, hold again, and we're going to explore the edge. And now, as you can see, as I hover, I'm now able to manipulate these individual edges. I'm going to hit W on my keyboard and just translate. I'm going to rotate my view, just change my view up a little bit, you know. Pull that out like that, just making something weird. I don't know, looks kind of cool, right? All right, let's hit E on my keyboard. Let's see if I can rotate this. Looks like I can. And I can grab different axes and get some weird results, right? Let's hit R on my keyboard. Let's see what happens if I can scale it. Yep, I can totally scale it in the X. I can scale it in that Z axis. Also can scale it in the Y. Awesome. Last but not least, while selected on my object, right click and hold and click object mode. And now I'm back to kind of where I started. Again, this is our object here, which again, I can translate, I can rotate, and I can scale. Definitely something to play around with, right? Those are the very, very, very basics of navigating and manipulating a shape in Maya, right? Rotating it, translating it, scaling it. And also being able to kind of pivot around it, right? And manipulate a face. And then moving your camera again, kind of always trying to figure out, are you creating that silhouette you like? All right, I'm gonna delete that cube and make a fresh one. And again, to delete a cube, just hit delete on your keyboard. All right, let's make some geometry. All right, to help us see a little bit better, I'm gonna mouse over here where it says wireframe on shaded, this little blue cube here with a white outline, and click. That just creates a nice little purple outline around my cube, just so I don't have to look at it. Also, if you don't want this grid, I don't mind it, me personally. It's, you know, it's whatever. Let's go to, let's see here. They might have got rid of it. I'll just have to find it later. I'm not sure exactly. It's usually right here. You usually get like a nice little list of items we can get rid of here and manipulate the viewport. Typically. Let me check one other place. Interesting. Anyway. All right, let's get to it. So while selected on my object, I'm going to open up my modeling toolkit right here, and I'm going to extrude. So again, I'm going to go into face mode first and make an extrusion. While selected on face mode, there's multiple ways we can extrude. I could, again, we're just going to do face mode extrusion first. I could hold shift on my keyboard, and as you can see, with my translation tool at the ready, holding shift in a face selected, I can hold shift on my keyboard and make an extrusion, right? There's another way we can do that. Again, while selected on my face, I can open up my modeling toolkit and I can hit the button extrude. And this cool little window friend here pops up, and I can adjust the thickness of my extrusion more mechanically. I can play with the offset of it. I can play with some divisions of it. And even I can play how I incrementally change things. So if I want to adjust that thickness now, and I keep clicking on this little pie chart friend here, make that little sliver real tiny, and now I play with the thickness. It takes my mouse much longer when I move it across the screen to make an effective change. And that's when if you really need to finesse it, this is going to be your best friend right here. Another thing we can do, again, select that face. We can go up here to edit mesh. And we have another option here. We could hit Command E on our keyboard, or edit mesh extrude, or we can click this little option box. This option box is obviously, you can see it here throughout the Maya menu. It's going to give you a nice little option box that pops up here, and you can really start controlling things. You can create divisions. You can kind of get more mechanical. It doesn't do it live, so it's kind of, in my opinion, not the coolest way to do it. I wouldn't touch the option box, me personally, when it comes to making an extrusion. But hey, if this works for you, it works for you. Honestly, I would use it here in the modeling toolkit, or hold shift, drag it up like that. Grab me another P cube, drag it over. I'm just going to do the same thing. Grab a face, extrude up, rotate my camera, select that face, extrude this way. Done. Grab another P cube. Just going to drag that over. Now, how do I make this kind of extrusion, right? A little bit difficult. I could take the time and drag this up and drag this out, drag this one out, move my mouse over here. And actually, this is a pretty good exercise. Oh, make sure I'm deselected. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo. And I'm just going to hit undo one more time just to make sure I'm fully I'm fully undone, if you will. Ooh, let me undo again. I accidentally grabbed this yellow friend here. We don't want that. We want to make sure we're grabbing our Z handle here. So I'm just going to hold Shift. And all I did there to fix that was really, I hit undo, Command Z, and then I just rotated my camera in a better position to grab my handle. You're going to be doing that a lot. If the handle's too small, you can always hit plus or minus on your keyboard to adjust your gizmo, friend. I'm going to hold Shift, pull that out, rotate my camera, hold Shift, grab that Z, pull that out. And I made another mistake again. Shame on me. Command Z again. I'm going to make sure I'm clicked only on this, not holding Shift. Click and drag that out. It's kind of a laborious way, but it is really good practice in the beginning to kind of get that extrusion. And you could get even a little bit more mechanical with it if we, let's say, grab another P cube. Let's move it over here to the side. Face, go into face mode, and then hit extrude. And we want, I don't know, one extrusion point, please. And there you go. You got a thickness of 1. And then we do the same thing over here. We click once, we hit extrude, and then we hit 1. We press 1 in a thickness, hit return key, and then rinse repeat all around there. Right? That's another way we could do that. Very mechanical, very slow, but not what we, I won't say not what we want, but there is another way. I'm going to enter face mode one more time, and I'm going to select all my faces. And I just did that with a left mouse button click, dragged over, made a marquee over my object and only my object. And sometimes I like to hit the F key just to make sure I'm only selected on that. If I'm not, like if I did like a bigger one, let's say I'm trying to like select this object and I don't really see that, right? And I'm trying to select something, I'll hit F key. And if it doesn't just, focus on, the thing I want, that means I got something else. A little quick and easy, dirty way to make sure you got the things you want selected. I'm going to go back to face mode, right mouse button down, face. Make sure I click that. I'm just going to check it. Yep, got it all selected. I'm going to go back to my modeling toolkit, hit extrude, and I'm going to adjust that thickness. But wait a minute, it's not giving me what I want. Why am I showing you that? First, we're going to do keep faces together off. I'm going to click and hold on the word and then drag it to the left. And now, when I adjust the thickness, it extrudes but keeps all those pieces, faces separate. Very, very, very handy. One other thing I want to show you before we go on the extrusion part. There we are. Is doing an extrusion not just with a face, but an edge. It is possible, but sometimes it can create very gnarly geometry. This is called non-manifold geometry. We don't like stuff like this. It is possible, And sometimes you'll accidentally create things like this. It's your job to definitely figure out how you did it, resolve those things, get into face mode, find those things, remove it. Don't know how that happens sometimes, but sometimes it's accidents, sometimes it's on purpose. I don't know. Can we extrude verts? Yes, we can. I'm gonna just hold shift, pull. Kind of like makes almost like a chamfer on the edge there. Very strange kind of geo is created. Very interesting, but something I've never done. Don't know why you would do it this way. Maybe it creates something, an interesting shape you might want to use later. I'm not sure, but extruding verts is strange, but hey, if it works for you, it works for you. All right. Showing my face this time. Maybe it's more helpful, maybe not. We'll see. If you hate it, love it, let me know. But I did up the resolution, capture resolution, so shouldn't be too much in the way. But anyway, all right. And if you see me kind of look over here, I'm just kind of like monitoring things, making sure everything's still in place and in order and still recording. All right. So I just created a sphere, but let me do that again on camera. I'm gonna just create a sphere here, W on my keyboard, just kind of drag that in the X in front of our next piece here. So it looks like it says manipulate the verts. We're gonna hit that right mouse button down, hold, and then highlight vertex. Just gonna zoom in here. I'm just gonna pull these verts. And again, this is just practice, nothing crazy. We're just getting used to it. If you want to try it with another primitive, go ahead. Try it with the cone or the cylinder. You can drag it over just to, again, get comfy. That's all this really is to get super comfy doing little, relatively like mundane things. I can go to face mode too. If you want, you can go ahead and move that around. Go to edge mode, do the same thing. And remember, we can always rotate these. We can scale this. Go to object mode and do that same thing. All right. And on the back here, there's a little hidden one where we manipulate the edge. We did that in class. All right, next. Again, something simple. We're grabbing a cube, hitting W on my keyboard, drag it over. R on my keyboard, scale it out. Just kind of position it a little bit better. That's all I did. Nothing crazy. I did the same thing with a torus. Grab a torus, scale it. If you're wondering when you see me like hit all three of these, my mind it's just how my mind works. I have to go WER. That's just how my mind works. I have to press all the buttons. And we'll click that there. Oops. And we'll scale that down. There we go. All right, we got the bevel next. And that one's pretty simple. Grab a cube. Bring it into place. And it looks like from the last video, last section, my wireframe shaded is off. I'm gonna turn that back on just so I can see a little bit clearer. I'm gonna zoom in here, F on my keyboard. I'm gonna go to my modeling toolkit. I could also go, again, edit mesh, and find bevel right there. But that's not for me. That's not how I want to model. So I'm gonna go right here to bevel, while in object mode, and I'm just gonna see what happens. While in object mode, it looks like I can manipulate the bevel as such. I can give it segments, add that curvature to my 3D object. Let's play with some depth here. Bloop, 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 bloop. Giving it a sort of an inset there. Lastly, I can play with that chamfer. Again, kind of sort of almost turns off that bevel. And it's almost like you're giving your 3D model more subdivisions in a way. So I can up those fractions, up those segments, I mean, and I can really create something kind of cool, to be honest. And I could turn that chamfer off and on. I mean, who knows what kind of starting shape you can do with this. I mean, the possibilities are endless, especially when you get more and more into modeling. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll grab these parts and I don't know, maybe I'll extrude here. Whoa. Let me go ahead and drop that. Click that little pie chart, friend. And let's hover over thickness. I don't know, what is that? That's some kind of alien device, probably, right? I'm gonna go ahead and hit 3 on my keyboard to do a smooth preview. We haven't talked about that yet in these video series, but I can talk about that right now since I just introduced it. I'm gonna grab a cube, and I'm just gonna drag it over. And do I have an example? I do over here on our smoothing section. We're gonna just jump ahead just a little bit. Just talk about smoothing. So what I did here is in my modeling toolkit, friend, while selected on my object, I hit the smooth button. And with a cube, it adds subdivisions in the Y, X, and Z axis. And if I do it again, you get more subdivisions. If I do it again, you get even more, so on and so forth, right? And you can do this with every single primitive, right? But let's say you don't want to commit those changes. You just kind of want to get a gist, if you will, about where your model is headed. Well, you can hit 3 on your keyboard. And it looks like, in my opinion, this is probably doing about 2, maybe 3 smooth approximations of where your model is headed. And the cool thing about this preview is, again, I'm going to hit 1 on my keyboard. Nothing's changed here. The model is exactly the same as it was. Nothing's changed. It's just giving me sort of like a smooth preview. It's giving me a smooth preview, which is what that 3 button is called, smooth preview. So again, 1 on my keyboard brings it back to where I'm the typical state. 3 gives me that smooth preview. And sometimes I get fancy and I want to model in this preview. So I'll like do an extrusion and I don't know, I'll build something kind of weird like this. And then, I don't know, I'll pull this out like this. And then maybe something like this. I'm making a blade. I don't know. But if I hit 1 on my keyboard here, check this out. Look at that bird. It's a beautiful, beautiful, strange looking blade. I'm gonna grab this edge, just drag that up. Oh yeah, this is the bird we want. I'm gonna grab both of these edges. You don't really have to follow this part. I'm kind of having some fun here. All right, let me stop having fun. Let me go back to the tutorial. All right, delete. So that's our smooth preview. Friend, let's go back here. Let's delete that. And let's try our Boolean here. Grab a cube, let's move it over here. We have our Boolean. Grab 1 cube, and I could grab another cube, or I could duplicate it, right? And how do you duplicate? Well, there's a couple ways. We can go to edit, and we can go copy, paste. That's kind of gross. We don't like doing stuff like that. We can go Command D. Let's try Command D first. Command D duplicates a model. That's cool, right? Or we can do Shift drag. Drags out a fresh new P cube there. And I'm just going to scale that down, kind of try to turn this into a pole. And I want this thing to kind of intersect with this model, go all the way through. I know in the one that I gave you, it kind of goes halfway through, and that's also fine, but I think this kind of makes it more apparent about what a Boolean does. Back in my modeling toolkit, we're just going to hit that. I'm going to select both of these objects and hit Boolean. And what I want you to notice here is my selection order before I press Boolean. So if I select this one first, the P cube, original P cube first, I'm going to hold Shift, select the next P cube, or we'll call it our rail or bar, whatever you want to call it, and click Boolean. And we just kind of look in between there. Now we can see that a Boolean basically makes a hole, cuts into our object, right? And what's cool about Maya 2024 is that this is like a live Boolean, so we can adjust the position, we can scale it, we can rotate it any way we want. And this is very cool and very new and something in the Maya community we've been looking for a while. So I'm very excited to see this. This is a very cool non-destructive workflow here. I'm going to hit undo here. And before I can do, I'm going to do another Boolean, but this time I'm going to select the rail here, hold shift, and then select the original P cube and do another Boolean. And as you can see, because I selected the rail first and then the P cube, it made that Boolean decision the other way. So it's actually, it's using that P cube to make the cut, if you will, which again is still pretty live, in which I can edit, right? But nonetheless, these two cubes have a relationship now, in which is again non-destructible. You can edit it, I can scale it, do all those cool things. Again, very, very cool. I love it. Amazing. And you can also adjust the order, the hierarchical order of these P cubes here. So it looks like whatever's on top gets influenced to the other cube here. Super, super cool stuff. Yeah, I love this. This is great. 10 out of 10. Thank you, Autodesk. Our next one here, which is duplicate or move pivot and duplicate special. I'm going to create a new P cube. Drag that over. And so with this, with the move pivot, what's cool about move pivot is, well, first, to move your pivot, you're going to hold the letter D for dog on your keyboard. Just hold it down. Use that left mouse button. And just like that, you can drag this pivot anywhere. It's not really snapping, right, though? So if I leave it here in this void space over here, let go of D, it still translates like typical, but my gizmo's way over here. So what happens if I rotate? So that rotate still rotates, but the pivot is based on its new location. Let's try a scale, see how it behaves. Still scales, but again, based on that new location, it's behaving a little differently, which can be beneficial, right? So what if I hold D, but let's just go ahead and, I don't know, put that pivot, maybe not in the center like we want it, but maybe somewhere down here, because I want to make these stairs. I'm going to zoom in here and, well, that's not where I wanted it. Shoot. Let me hold D again, and I want it about here on the corner. I think I got it. Oh, nope. Nope. Guess let me hold D again. Maybe here? Is that on the corner? Oh, dang it. Let me hold D again. Is that about right? Kind of. Is there another way? Yes. So holding D does move that pivot, but holding V for Victor snaps, right? I'm gonna hit this button right here first before I show you this. Center pivot. This will center the pivot, your gizmo here, on any selected objects, right? So it's back in the center like it typically is. I'm gonna hold D, or I'm gonna hold the letter V on my keyboard. V for Victor, and holding V initiates our snap. This will snap to any vertex of any object that you mouse over based on your gizmo here. So I'm going to let go, hit F, and as you can see, it snapped to this corner vertex with this gizmo here. I'm going to hold V again just to show you that. It's just snapping here. Another way to show you that is to move the pivot to this vertex here. So I'm going to hold D plus V on my keyboard and just mouse over here to this vertex and let go. So now I'm not guessing, it just kind of just landed there perfectly. So now when I hold V for Victor on my keyboard and snap, snaps perfectly. Again, based on that gizmo here, it's snapping to vertexes. So let me move that away. So let's build these stairs. I want to move this pivot to the front here. So again, D plus V on my keyboard and just move that pivot to the bottom. And there we are. Next, we're going to do our duplicate special. So I could go up here, duplicate special. I'm not going to do that. So while selecting on our object, I'm going to go Shift D, Shift plus D on my keyboard. And it created a special, it duplicated my cube right on top of the cube I selected, just like a duplicate does in general, right? But what's different about this is once I make a translation, rotation, or scale, I can hit that Shift D and repeat that exact same, I can repeat that action that I did from rotation, scale, or translation. Let me show you. So I did Shift D, and I'm just going to translate it. I'm going to hold V and translate that right to this corner here. So all I did was really snap it to the corner above. So if I hit Shift D, it's just going to repeat my actions. And I'm just going to keep hitting Shift D just so you can see. Make a stairway to heaven there. So again, that was just a translation. Let's try it with what if I do a duplicate special, Shift D, and what if I translate it to the top here, but then I go, what if I say I want to scale it just a little bit, What happens? Let's see. Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D. So as you can see here, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger relative to that first. So it gets exponentially bigger relative to that first scale action I did. So I can redo that and do it even more. I can do an even bigger scale here. I'm just going to scale. I'm not even going to translate. I'll translate a little bit so we can see. So Shift D, I'll move it to the side here. Then I'll scale it up like this. And now when I hit Shift D, whoa, Shift D, Shift D, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh boy. It's starting to cause some issues there when it comes to what my camera can render. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that before something crashes. Maya does love to crash sometimes. And I'm going to do the same thing with a rotate, just to further drive it home. While selected on my object, I'll hit Shift D, just move it out the way so we can see. And based on that pivot, I'm going to rotate this way. You know what? I could hold J on my keyboard. Let me try that again, actually. If I hold J on my keyboard, it does snap. And that's J for Jeremy or Jacob. And this is a snap rotation. So something new there. And let's say, I don't know, I want to do a rotation maybe like this much. And then Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D. I'm just going to keep smashing Shift D. And would you look at that? Now I'm making motion graphic art. Making something real crazy here. That's pretty cool. I'm not sure what I could do with that shape. Who knows? Tons of cool options. I know one thing I could do, which is our next example here, I could combine these shapes. I'm actually going to bring this over. So we have combined. So when I select this object, it looks like we have one object here with two meshes, and we want them to be like this. Actually, let me delete that. Or actually, no, I want to combine these two meshes, excuse me. I want to combine these two meshes. How do I do that? Let's go back to our modeling toolkit friend over here. I can click this P cube, hold shift on my keyboard to select multiple objects, including faces, edges, objects, and I'm just going to hit combined. Please remember to let go of that shift key before you click combined, or you'll get some other, you'll get a little menu that pops up here. We don't want that. So make sure you let go of shift key. And what if we want to separate these objects? Kind of like how these were initially. Well, while selecting on my objects, I just click separate. And now I have two objects with one mesh each. So the way I talk about these, again, this is one object, two meshes. These are now one mesh, one object, one mesh, one object. That is a way in which you'll hear me talk about it. Sometimes people will just call this mesh just an object, even though, oh, grab these two, look at those two objects there, and they're not wrong. It's just me being very particular about it. That's all. And once you get more into it, you kind of know what they mean just based on context clues. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't overthink it. It's just, hey, this is a mesh no matter what. These are individual meshes no matter what. But when I combine them, now they become one object, two meshes, and when they're separated, now they're just one mesh, one object, right? I'm going to select these cubes over here, and maybe I'll combine these, and now I can scale them together. I can do something like this. I'm not sure what I can do. What if I can hit the smooth preview, number 3. Now I got a whole bunch of like daggers. Maybe this is like one of those weird, they're not that weird. One of those bracelets. I don't know. I've seen those bracelets. Help me out here. What are those bracelets called? Put it in the chat. I'm just kidding. All right. Press T. Grab a new cube here. Drag it over. I'm going to scale it up a smidge. And this is just for view. You don't have to do this. So while selecting on the object, this is just really showing you a menu, cool little menu that pops up here. Pressing T on your keyboard will let you adjust the width, the height, the depth, the subdivision width. Let me click my pie graph here. Subdivisional width, subdivisional height for your primitive object. This also works with any one of these primitives here. So when you're starting, you kind of want to hit T on your keyboard, or we can go to our channel box friend and we kind of get those same options here. We can click on our inputs and kind of manipulate. We can kind of manipulate our P cube in the same kind of way. Now, I will say this. Let's say I make an extrusion. So let's say I do this. Let me drop this down to something more reasonable. 2, 2, and 2. Right? Something like this. And then what if I extrude here? Or I just manipulate this face and I hit T. I'm not even extruding. I just hit T on my keyboard. Kind of gets real gnarly right there, right? So you want to be careful. You really want to just make sure your subdivisions are in order before you start manipulating the shape. Also, if I do make an extrusion, And again, let's say I hit T on my keyboard, I lose some of that information here. Or actually it goes straight into extrusion mode. So like, let's say I rotate it, T on my keyboard, it's still thinking about the last thing I did, which is the extrusion. So you're not stuck, but you're sort of stuck because you can always delete this object. Or you can go in here, again, this is the channel box. You can go in here, and as you start to manipulate your 3D objects, you start to see this list build up. So let me make another extrusion here. And whoop, I just extruded another face. And I'm gonna go to object mode. So while selected on my object, look at that. There's that first extrusion right here, extrusion 10, and there's another extrusion. So I can manipulate that extrusion. Now things can get spicy if you are in the channel box and you're trying to manipulate those individual movements. So this is our latest extrusion. Let's see if we can manipulate this one in our channel box. It'll probably work because the object isn't that complex. So let's see what we do. I typically never mess with it in this kind of view. Let's see if we taper it. That's not giving us anything. What if we rotate? Okay, rotation's giving us something. Scale, that's giving us something. Okay, it does work, but again, I personally, I don't use this. If you're confident with it, if that's something where you really need to make a tweak on something you did, you can do that using the channel box here. And again, every little manipulation. I wonder, does it hold our scale? Other than our scale, rotate, and translate, it doesn't really keep that information in our history here. But if we're moving a face, or extruding a face, there's extrusion number 12. If we're deleting a face, go back to the object mode. I guess we can manipulate that part of it. I see, again, I don't really mess with these inputs. Maya is not as efficient as Blender or 3ds Max when it comes to messing with that history stack, if you will. And so I would use this again with caution. You can still manipulate things, but again, just use with caution if you're going to play in this channel box and start tweaking individual movements, extrusions, things like that you build up in your history. All right. Next up, we got smooth again. I'll do that one more time. Why not? And again, I'll grab not a torus. Maybe I'll grab a cylinder because we see the cone there. And I'm going to smooth these again. We have our smooth preview, which is 3 on our keyboard. And again, it's not actually committing a smooth. So just like that history I was talking about, when I hit 3, you don't see anything move here in our channel box history, right? But if I go mesh smooth, aha, now something occurred in our history here, in which we can manipulate later, again, as this history builds up, sort of like Photoshop history, sort of, kind of. And then I can hit G for George, G for good day on my keyboard. And what G does, repeats that last action. Somewhat similar to duplicate special. It's not an exponential thing. It's just hey, I just want to repeat my last action thing. So you can hit G, again, G for George on your keyboard, and you can repeat that action there. Let's do that with the cube here, or with the cylinder. Open up my modeling toolkit, and I'm going to hit smooth. Again, I went up to mesh last time. This time I went to the modeling toolkit. Multiple ways to do these things. I smoothed it. Let me do another smooth on that. I didn't hit G. I just pressed the smooth button twice. And that is a perfect video game barrel. I'm so good at art. Like, wow. All right, let's get into target welding. So there's a couple cool ways you can resolve a face here. Um, so let's say your object has a hole in it and you're like, oh my God, how do I resolve it? So we can go into edge mode here, and maybe we could drag out another face. Again, I just extruded out another face. Let me do that again. Holding shift, just dragged out another face. Doesn't really matter the length. It's not like, oh, I have too much face and it's not gonna match. That's not how 3D programs work. It's almost like it's infinite, like they're all the same size in a weird way. So like this is like the same as this, as long as it connects. Within reason. So I'm going to target wheel now. I'm going to hop into vertex mode, right click hold, and mouse over vertex. I'm going to click my vertex and click target weld in our modeling toolkit. And as you can see, my cursor is a little different. It has a crosshair on it. And I'm going to left click hold. And then as you see, I mouse over all these different verts. You see this line coming out there. So I'm going to hover over this vert that I want to connect it to. Boop. And it sort of like slaps it. They kind of connect there, right? Let's do it with the same thing with this one. Click. You see that? Let me get closer here. When I click on that vert, you can kind of see like a little tiny orange circle around it. That means it's selected. And then when I get to that other one, you can kind of see that orange line there. And there's also another circle down there. Know it's connected. Boom, resolved. And one little trick I like to do, make sure I'm selected on my object. I hit 3 on my keyboard to make sure that thing is connected there. Because sometimes, if it's not connected, I just hit undo a couple times while in smooth preview. You can see if it wasn't fully connected or if it was like sort of kind of connected, like, or if it wasn't properly connected, it would still have these gaps here. So like, let me bring this over here, right? It's not properly connected. It looks like it is, but it's not, right? We want to make sure when we are doing a weld that things are connected. And one of my favorite ways to do that is just hitting 3 on my keyboard after I do a target weld to make sure I'm getting that desired smoothing shape. And this is not it. So we got to make sure we get that right. So I'm just going to drag this out a little. Click target weld. Make sure that's connected. Let's do the same thing over here. Make sure I'm selected on my object first. So I just went to object mode, clicked on this. I'm going back to vertex mode. Click target weld. Select the vert, drag it to the vert I want to connect it to. Done. So for this, there's a couple ways we can do that. Over here, I kind of like extruded out an edge and then connected it. That was a whole thing. So there's another thing we could do. I can go to edge mode. And though this isn't target weld, I do believe we do have a bridge section over here, but I can show that over here. I can bridge 2 selected edges and bridge those together. And let me hit 3 on my keyboard, make sure they look all good. I'm so particular. I always got to like pull the shape, make sure it's like super target welded. Like it has to, I don't know. It's just, I'm very shaky about that for some reason. And again, I don't have to pick these 2 edges. I can go into edge mode and pick the ones here to here. Again, I just held shift, select the 2 edges, bridge. And would you look at that? We have bridged those 2. Also, haven't used this method in a while. I believe it's under, we can go amend polygon. I believe we have to be in edge mode for this. Oh, so click pin to polygon. I think you just draw. Ah, yes, you get this little, get these arrows here. And then if I click once, if I click here to here, boom, it amends it. Let's do that same thing over here. Mesh tools, a pin to polygon. Click on a boundary edge here. And then I want it to go to here. Then I hit return. Let me do the same thing. A pin to polygon. Click an edge. Find the other edge. Return. And of course, I'm going to hit 3 on my keyboard. Make sure everything's all welded. Go back to 1 on my keyboard. And we're done. All right. So we have combined bridge and smooth here. So I'm going to grab a cube and a sphere. And I could grab these two, but I'm going to just grab a fresh one just to be on the safe side. 1 cube, 1 sphere. And they should be right on top of each other if you're getting a fresh one. Just going to zoom out and just drag these all the way over here. And pull them back in the Z. Hit F on my keyboard. Just kind of position them up like so. Whoop. All right. So similar to the one before. We're going to select these two items, or objects, excuse me. Hold Shift to select each one of these. Shift click each. And the first thing we're going to do is combine. Go over here to combine in our model toolkit. Next, we're going to interface mode. And we're going to hold Shift on one face. And then we're going to kind of mouse over here. You don't have to do it in this order. I just am. And I'm just going to pick a face I think is about, you know, parallel to that. Chose that one there. And then we're going to hit bridge. Our little option, floating box option friend here is up. You can go ahead and play with that and give it some subdivisions there. See what that taper does. It's kind of snappy. Let's go ahead and hit that pie chart. Try it again, see if we can get something more. No, not on this shape. It's not going to give us anything nice. We could twist it. Oh, that's kind of cool. But we won't right now. You can mess with curve type and just try out all these things just to see how they behave. And then lastly, smooth. And now we have some sort of baseball device. And really the point here is not just to show you how to combine, not really to show you how to bridge, but really it's just me hoping to get you to just think about how you can combine primitive objects to create the shapes you finally want, right? All right, let's talk about combining Boolean. So we got a cylinder here. We kind of want to make this shape. This is just, you know, further illustrating what you can do with Boolean. I thought this was a cool little example. So we have this pyramid here, or we have these cylinders here, and I'm just going to highlight all these, drag select, make sure nothing else is selected, and then I'm going to hold Shift and click, Shift and click to deselect that middle pyramid. I'm going to hit combined, and now we have all these cylinders, pyramids. Why am I trying to say pyramids? We have all these cylinders combined here. So now let's perform our Boolean. We're going to click our middle piece, hold Shift, click our pillars, and then click Boolean. And there you go. So it's not just one object. You can actually combine objects first, to create even more interesting and dynamic shapes, right? That live Boolean, as you can see, is still on, but this counts. And if you want, you can even drag out a duplicate, kind of keep this live over here and kind of work on this. Like, let's say you want to try something crazy, but you don't know if it's going to work. So you can kind of work on this one and do some weirdness to this and extrude something over here. And you're like, oh no, this is not quite what I want. Yeah, you could undo, you could just undo it and things like that. But instead of doing that, you can just delete it, drag out another one, try it again. So that's kind of cool. Again, something kind of new to Maya when it comes to that live Boolean and how it behaves. Something really, really cool. All right. So next up, we got Control and Delete, Control and Delete edges and slide edges. So in this example, I definitely had a cube ready to explain this, but actually I'm going to get rid of that. I want you to grab a sphere and go ahead and bring that into place. And I'll explain here. In this example, I really wanted to explain why it's important to use Ctrl+Delete when deleting an edge, and also what the difference is between moving an edge and using the slide edge operation. But with a cube, the example does not work as well. As I was trying to explain it and threw away that video, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't quite work, and it visually doesn't work. But with a sphere, it does. So why do you want to use Control-Delete versus just hitting the delete button? Well, let me show you. So typically, like an object, oh, I want to delete an object. Okay, go to object mode, click it, delete, it's gone, right? So let's go to vertex mode, or excuse me, edge mode. Let's double click on the edge, and then let's just hit delete. Wait a minute, the edge is gone, but hang on a second. What is going on here? Interesting. The curvature is still intact. That doesn't seem right either. I'm gonna go to vertex mode, and would you look at that? Those vertexes are still there. I don't like that. It's kind of silly that it works like this in default, but hey, they probably have a good reason that this is more important to do it this way than not. So let me show you how to do it the right way. Again, double click, make sure you're in edge mode, double click on that edge you want to delete. We're gonna hold Control+Delete, and just like that, it completely removes it and actually changes the curvature of this sphere. I'll do another one, Control+Delete. There you go. That is how you properly remove an edge. I know it's like, dang, I gotta take my hands off a mouse, but yeah. I'm just gonna undo here just a little bit, and we're gonna slide an edge here. So I'm gonna double click on an edge, and you're probably like, what is slide edge? Well, we wanna be able to adjust our edge while still keeping the curvature of our model, right? Whether it's a human being or a dragon or something, we might wanna make an adjustment. And typically what I've shown you is, well, you just translate. But as you can see, translating in this situation is kind of not the best idea, because I guess I could move it up here, and I guess I can scale it in to try to keep that curvature, but that's just weird, and no, right? I'm gonna hold shift on my keyboard plus right mouse button down, and I get this other cool contextual menu, right? So if I hold shift and left mouse button, that's how I select. Oop, there we go. Shift right mouse button down. And I have all these cool little fun little tricks here. We'll get to a lot of these later. But the one I'm looking for is the slide edge tool. It says drag middle mouse button to slide. All right, so I'm gonna click that middle mouse button and just drag it left to right. Just hold that middle mouse button down and then just move left and right on my keyboard. And as you can see, for the most part, it tries to follow the adjacent edges and tries to keep that contour, right? This is how we want to move edges on our model, right? Within reason, right? If it's something that you can like individually adjust something real small, it's fine. But if it's something more complex and you want to keep that edge loop, keep that topology, and we'll get into topology later, you're going to want to use that slide edge tool. All right, next, let's make a shader. I'm going to grab our sphere right here and just drag out a copy. And I've already made the color yellow. I want you to make something a little bit different. Give me, I don't know, give me the color green or something. Some red, green, something not yellow. So I'm going to click this and I'm going to right click on this sphere, and we're typically up here, edge mode, vertex, right? Right mouse button down. We have all these other cool things in our menu, but we're not here for any of that. We're here for assign new material, assign favorite material, and assign existing material. As you can see, I've been busy creating materials here, so you shouldn't see all this. Actually, you might see some of this. But we have gold here. That's the one I made. But let's make you one. So right click, right mouse button down while selected on your object. And again, we're going to go to assign favorite material. As you can see, there's Boolean, Lambert, and Fong. Those are probably going to be some of your favorites. A Lambert is just like that, the one that you see over here next to the sphere, right over here. That is Lambert. And matter of fact, let me just show you. Why am I talking about it when I can just show you, you know? Let's go ahead and make a Lambert material. And as you can see, our attribute editor pops up here and it says Lambert number 2. And I'm gonna call this, I don't know, green, I guess. Ooh, too many E's. And right in that attribute editor, again, I'm selected on my object. I'm just gonna double click here on color. Change that color to green. Ooh, that's bright. I'm gonna move that window out the way so I can see what I'm doing. That's kind of a cool green, right? I'm just gonna hit done. Yes, you can manipulate the transparency, things like that. Yes, you can mess with the ambient color. You can make it glow a little bit. And all these things, we'll touch those later, but not now. So I just made the color green. Put that right there. I'm going to drag out a duplicate of this yellow sphere. And then I'm going to right click and hold. And then I'm going to make, it go to existing material. And as you can see, there's my green right there. I can make another green. I can change that to gold. Oop. Existing material, gold, or there's the Lambert original, Lambert 1. Or I can go to assign favorite material. And there's a whole bunch of other options here, but typically I tell students the way you want to make a material, for the most part, for the beginning, is you're going to right click, go to favorite material, assign favorite material, and pick from this list. These are typically the ones you want. Let's try what a Boolean looks like. Boolean has almost like a kind of a sheen to it. I'm going to maybe give it a black color so you can see it just a little bit better. I believe this is this a Boolean? Yes, it is. My yellow is also a Boolean. I'm going to duplicate this. Let me call this one black before I do that. That material, call that black. And while selecting on this new sphere, I'm going to make another material and call that, let's try the Fong so you can see the difference. And I believe this one's also kind of shiny. It just reflects light a little bit differently. Let's make this one red. And as you can see, the sheen on this one is, let me turn off that wireframe just so you can see the difference. There is a slight difference there, not too different. The ones I typically use though, honestly, is the Lambert. I'm never messing with the Fong or the Boolean. I just don't. I do sometimes just for fun, but it's, since I'm mostly a real-time artist, I'm going to be handling my materials typically outside of Maya in Substance Painter, right? So this is really just for me, just for it to make sense later. Even when it comes to baking, I might mess with some things in there, but for the most part, I don't need to worry about that. All right, for this last one, go ahead and make myself bigger. Okay. So for this last one, class, I want you to make these shapes. Every one of these shapes. This is pretty easy. Think about where these start. I mean, I'll give you this one. This one's a sphere in which I've pulled the bottom vertexes, translated those down, and only those vertexes. This is obviously some sort of cylinder I used. Again, manipulated the vertexes. Let me go ahead and turn that wireframe on so we can see just a little bit better. I made we'll call it a 3D bagel. That's what we'll call it. Some kind of bagel sandwich. Here I made, we'll call it a plate. And really, I just want you to try to make these shapes. These are pretty easy, but I want you to make these shapes. Then, I want you to make 5 more shapes, manipulations similar to these. I know this looks like a pencil, this looks like a food, this looks like a plate. I want you to make something. And it doesn't have to be that intricate. It could be, you could try your best to make like, let's say a donut, you know, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be that crazy. You can put little cubes on it, but I want you to make something. It doesn't have, and I promise you, nothing crazy. And I want you to give me, I think I said 5, give me like 3 objects. And I mean 3 pieces. So maybe we lay that on top there. And then we duplicate that all around here. And we got like some sort of delicious, I don't know, what is this? Some sort of pizza bagel. That's what this is. It's a pizza bagel. And then I want you to make sure you give all these a color. So if this is a pizza bagel, we got to shade this, right? So I'm going to right click on that object, assign favorite material. Where's my Lambert? Lambert. We're going to call this bagel color. We'll do camel case on that. And bagels are kind of like this, maybe. Something like that. Yeah. And for those who are probably asking, can you color individual faces? You absolutely can. So I can be in face mode because that's just me being in object mode. I can select like a ring here and I can right click on that selected face, assign favorite material, and I don't know, let's add green. A weird green nasty bagel. Perfect. That is perfect. And then I can group select all these holding shift excuse me, right click, assign existing material. I don't think anything is red, so I need to assign a favorite material, and we'll go Lambert again, and we'll call this pepperoni. This is a pepperoni bagel here. There's the red there. It's a little much on my red. Let's tone that down a little bit. Perfection. And I'm just going to duplicate these a little bit more. Put some here. I'm doing Command D right now to duplicate. Ooh. Or I can just hold Shift while translating and really get these going. And again, don't forget, if you want to kind of snap to a vert relative to your gizmo here, don't forget you can hold the letter V down and it'll start snapping all over the place. Oh yeah, doesn't that look delicious? So maybe not 5 objects. I'll change my mind. Let's just do, give me 2 to 3 objects. Give me these, manipulate these objects, and then give me, forgot to group them. That's why they kind of, when I scaled them up there, they're just all selected. They're kind of like scaling weird, and they're all scaling independently. We don't want that. After we've kind of placed everything, let's combine it, right? Center our pivot. And now when we want to scale it, it scales together. Shame on me. But anyway, give me about 3 objects, 3 separate objects from here with color. And again, you can make anything. I don't care. You can get real artistic with it. You can do like a pencil in a cup. It doesn't matter. As long as it's colored and as long as they're 3 separate objects. So literally, like, you can grab this. And I don't care if you use these items. I'm going to go into face mode. Select these faces up top. Then deselect these faces. Again, I just was holding Shift when I did that. Let me show that again. Holding Shift. I selected everything. And then I kind of moved my mouse. Holding Shift again to deselect. That's just a really quick way to make that selection. You could literally go click, hold Shift, click, 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 click. Up to you. But for me, since I've been using mine for a while, I'm just gonna drag like this, hold Shift again, drag over it like that, and I selected that on the bottom. So when I'm making my selection, I want to make sure I'm hitting the right areas. I can't just drag here. It's going to select that on the back. I'm going to make that marquee a little bit more petite and then select there. So now that area is deselected. That's what I want. I'm going to go to my scale tool and I'm just going to extrude in. Go to my scale tool, extrude in. And then I'm going to scale that in. Now I got myself a little cuppy cup. And I'm just going to duplicate that again, just holding Shift to drag it out. Whoop. Look at that, I put a pencil in a cup. I'm so good at this. And then I'm going to scale it down. Again, this is based on where this pivot is. We have our center pivot friend here. If you want to control it from the center of the object, the newly defined object, or I can hold D and V on my keyboard and move it to the bottom here. So now when I scale it, it kind of behaves like this. And I can even rotate it a little easier, right? Look at that, one of those fat pencils from the 90s in a cup. And then here, I could do maybe, I don't know, a bagel on a plate or something. Oh, let me delete that other bagel. Whoop. And there's my 3 objects. And now I can get to coloring these. I'm going to assign a material. Oh, what color haven't I used? Let's see. Let's go purple. Why not? And again, I can call it purple. I can call it whatever, as long as I know what it is. It's kind of a pinkish purple. Let me purple it up here. There we go. Whoa. There it is. That's that loud color I'm looking for. Assign favorite material again. What do I want? Blue. No. Orange. We want orange. There we go. Yes. I'm going to call this orange. It's an interesting orange I made. And then over here, I'm just going to use the existing colors I have. I'm going to make this gold, a delicious gold bagel. Perfect for me. And then let's use a green plate. Why not? And there you go. I have my 5 items. I'm going to close my attribute editor here. I have my 5 items. Or I have my 6 items. Why do I keep saying 5? I don't know. I have my 6 items recreated, or you should have your 6 items recreated, plus an additional 3 items. You can use a combination of something you make or what I have right here. Blend those together. Please shade them. Save this file like that and turn this in. And then I'm just going to go through and check from here on to make sure you did your homework. From target wheel on to make sure you did what you did. Sorry this video took so long, folks. I hope you enjoyed. Please, 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 if you have questions, please ask.